So yeah, I haven't made a video in a while. It's really not that urgent when you go through my material on my channel. It's really I try to make it timeless. Sometimes, sometimes I'll address some things, but overall, the theme is timeless. It's perennial. I'm not trying to put too much content that become outdated because a lot of the topics here are, like I said, perennial. They're fundamental, and the fundamentals never change. You can't change them. You can't change the fundamental structure of this existence or this mock existence. So a lot of the points will be the same points, a million, I guess you could say, years from now, or they were the same a million years ago, however long or whatever, if you believe it's timeless or whatever. That's plain, but yeah, and a lot of things, it's just reiteration basically. I don't like to beat a dead horse, but at the same time, reiteration does help you to further understand or digest sometimes. I mean, sometimes you need a break. You need to do other things, think about other things, and then come back to stuff. And time also helps that too. Just, a lot of the stuff you start to understand just as time goes on, in combination with, contemplation sprinkled throughout, certain eras of your your so-called life here, which is really your death, your spiritual death here in the earth dungeon, or in body consciousness, which is really what it is. Body consciousness is death. That's in Alvin Boyd Kuhn's book. Bobby brought that up, The Lost Light, where they say how people say it all the time. A lot of stuff we say or people say, it doesn't, like, they don't really know what they're saying. Like, we just say it like it's cool to say, but this really is, if you want to talk about death, this is death. Um, there's actually, I'll link to a page. There's a Gurbani, I forgot his name, but whatever. He's a Sikh, and he has a good blog. He puts there's a lot of articles there where he's just reviewing some of the concepts. It's pretty much, and Panic brought this up too. If you go through the Gnostic premise, as I like to call it, if you just go through that first, or preliminary, I would say, in a sense, really, because you got to understand all, because a lot of intellectuals would say, well, religion is stupid, religion is a fantasy, it's a fable, it's made up, and they would be right on a certain level, even on the second level, maybe even the third level. You'd be like, oh, it's still bullshit. But actually, deep down, it's not. The kernel of religion is true, because religion is about binding one back. I think the original meaning was like, binding back or something like that, meaning you're getting tied back to actually the origin, which is the origin of your being. But really, it's about understanding the origin. Like they say, the alpha, the omega. So real religion, like I said, this is really true religion. And so gnosis, or I would say the Gnostic premise, because even the word gnosis, if you go to, like, Wikipedia, they'll say, knowledge, spiritual revelation, blah blah blah, but you really won't get it. Like, you got to go into the Gnostic stuff, and you got to go into that hardcore stuff too. Um, there's the Gnostic religion by Hans Jonas. You can go through that. A lot of these books are pretty big. I have the PDF. I can link you to it. So I mean, if you're a stern reader who just reads everything, I mean, you can read the whole book. But a lot of these books, just have them on, have them on deck, and just, like, go through the PDFs even. Just do word searches and just scan through. A lot of times we don't have time to read every book, and I wouldn't try to do that. Depending on how your life is going, how your your death state down here is going. Because you got to always tend to your deficiencies, and once you do that, you still got desires you got to try to fulfill. You still got them because you're down here. So, unless you're going to be a monk or a hermit, just read, 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 which I wouldn't recommend trying to read 200 pages of just say like Gnostic Religion by Hans Jonas. That's not going to really do you anything because you're not even going to, this stuff is not going to sink in. Like a lot of stuff, like there's sometimes like in my Qigong book, Embryonic Breathing, like some of those pages, I would go over and over and over and over certain pages like for weeks until it finally clicked. And you got people who just read like say 200 pages or whatever of a book, or they'll brag about reading 200 pages of a book, and like one day, and it's like, well, did you really absorb that stuff? And there's a way, actually, if you want to get better at reading, I would suggest also there's a book on. You can find some books on Amazon for free, even tell you how to read faster. The trick is to read with your eyes. And they say that's part of the scam of public schooling. They taught us to read with our mouths or with our kind of like, I don't know how you say, read with your mind, yeah, but they kind of taught us to read a certain way that's not actually the intelligent way to do it. Because we decipher through symbols. It's like hieroglyphics is symbols. Like how do they read that? Even with the Chinese language, it's a script, whatever you want to call it. It's a pictograph or whatever. But in Japanese, they use those symbols. It's symbolic. It's symbology because the mind works with symbology. That's how dreams work. And so, even with letters and words, your mind already sees it. There's that meme going around where it says, intelligence is the ability to adapt, but it's spelled with numbers upside down and backwards letters, but your mind immediately can read it. And so that tells you that, oh, well, you're not really reading how you think you're reading. So you should learn to read with your eyes. You got to read, from left to right. You got to read by moving your eyes along the page from left to right. Scan it with your eyes first, and your mind will start to catch up and decipher the symbolic words and meanings without actually trying to pronounce the words in your mind. That's where it gets slow. And reading, you just stagnate. You just read slow. So that's how you can speed up your reading. But at the same time, while you're doing that, you want to digest the concepts. Like I said, you got to revisit concepts. Like, man, there's books, pages I highlight, and stuff I still don't get, and stuff that sometimes something will happen, or I'll just come back around to a concept, and be like, damn, that's what it meant. But I thought I got it like 2 years ago. You really didn't get it. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of these books and stuff. Because somebody told me, people keep asking me for a book list. I'm like, yeah, well, that's fine and cool, but see, the thing is, and I'm not saying you don't take a book list from anybody, but it only works if you came to the book. Because if I give you like that Qigong embryonic breathing book, a lot of stuff in there, depending on the person where you're at, you won't get it because you don't have the question for it. So I'm just gonna like throw a bunch of words at you and or tell you read this page, and it's like if you're not interested in it at that point, you're not really gonna get it. It's just gonna be a bunch of words that'll feel like homework, and it's not what this is, man. This isn't homework. But yeah, I'll put out a book list. But again, like you gotta like formulate your own questions and like I said, I never read a lot of this stuff. I don't read from cover to cover in a sequence. A lot of times I will flip through a book because a lot of times I was working or busy with something. I didn't have time to just sit there and read the whole book. I will flip through and find something interesting and just start reading and start from there. Then I'll flip around, find another page or paragraph. This looks like an interesting part. Let me read through this, highlight it, come back, start to like, So I read in a sort of chaotic sense. Some people would disagree with that, of course. So you didn't learn it, but that's the way I go. Like that's the way it worked out for me. So anyway, like I was saying, you want to have you got to go through the Gnostic premise because that's the perennial truth that always gets buried and distorted. Like if you go online or anything like that, all these social media, you can follow some of the spiritual pages, like especially Vedanta philosophy. You got you got Stoicism. You got those are the popular ones. You got some philosophy channels and pages, all the popular Greek philosophy. Um, then you got, let's see, the people into who think they're in esotericism. Let's go. You got, of course, I can bring up Hermes, and Hermes is the real deal. Like Hermes has some passages that most of the people who claim to be hermeticists into hermeticism, they don't want to hear this shit. Like they want to hear the sacred geometry, the stuff that seems cool. Look at all these complex pictographs and but you're not learning like the fundamental truths that like penetrate and like change your whole. It's like Panic said, the life changing stuff, the stuff that really changes you from boys to men, like not the silly stuff that you haven't addressed because you're still, the term, you're still like the son of a woman. You're still a female. Like you haven't gotten like the blazing masculine fire knowledge of the origin. Like you're still in something. You're born in a womb. You still think this is like something to look up to. You think you've gained something by being formed inside of a womb into a body, matter, take on a consciousness, a temporal, limited, ignorant consciousness, and you think this is somehow a gain from your original condition, and that's backwards because this is female in a certain sense, in a certain context, and that flip flops also from the female to male thing. Believe me, I'm familiar with that. People will say, "Oh, this is masculine, the feminine is the," but let's keep it in this context. That would be feminine based on the fact that you're worshiping matter, the womb, the matrix, the mother, which is animal in this case. So a lot of these people haven't even like went over that. So a lot of these people, they're not really, or let me just say minds. A lot of these minds, they haven't been, I don't want to say reformed, but they're just not gonna go there. Um, so you got Hermes, like I said, which is real deal, but they won't get it. Um, you got the Eastern stuff. You got Buddhism, uh, Hinduism, blah blah, and you got a lot of these people that come out like who we have now. Osho, well, not Osho, tripping. Osho was actually okay. He was okay, but the thing with the Gnostic premise is that again, it separates the men from the boys, and it puts you on such a high standard that you'll just realize that nobody's telling the truth. Like everybody's diluting and trying to like gloss over the serious stuff because most people are trying to talk to a crowd, and if you're trying to talk to a crowd, you're gonna bullshit the crowd because this stuff is too revealing, it's too life shattering. It kind of like puts everything on trial. And of course, since everything down here is ultimately shit, which I think a lot of people know deep down, you just can't do it. It kind of upsets everything. It upsets the vibe. It's like killing the vibes. So this knowledge really is really private. This insight is kind of a private insight. And then you're trying to go to a public group like a lot of these guys do, or speak out to the people. You're gonna lie, or maybe that's just in your personality. So yeah, you go on social media, you see these quotes. You got people who, yes, I mean the stuff can be, if you want to say it's helpful, it helps you expand your mind, but something's still missing. You know that because it doesn't address this fundamental reality, like the Gnostic premise does. Like what I call enlightened pessimism, which is what it is. Um, I mean, even is nihilism is truthful. A lot of the atheists have the nihilism, but they're still materialist. And like I said, a lot of them have been exposed because a lot of them are just on the social political spectrum. They're just liberals, and I think if anybody who's really a deep thinker understands this stuff, you've seen that the liberals are just as fucking psychotic and delusional as the conservatives. You know, if they want to call the conservatives, these religionists with their God talk. These people have turned man into God. And their religion of the past 2 years, I already went over their religions. That's COVIDism, COVIDiots, this COVIDiocy nonsense, the demon particle, the priest doctors they worship. There's also this climatism crap, which they believe, a fucking religion. The sky is falling, apparently. That's basically what they're saying. The sky is falling. And, the oceans are going to overflow. And meanwhile, the Statue of Liberty has the same, the sea level at the Statue of Liberty is the same for the past 100 years. But guess what? I guess you got to look at some data. There they go. They have to look at these papers by these scientists. because not to mention there's a whole another class of scientists saying this is a joke, this is a fraud, but they don't care about those scientists, just the scientists that agree with their fanatical delusions. Like, so I don't want to go off on a tangent, but just the past 2 years really exposed liberalism for anybody who understands these intellectual spectrums. Leftism, materialism, atheism. These guys have been exposed because most of these atheists they believe in this nonsense with this convid nonsense, this scamdemic. You'll see a lot of them believe in it. They think that not breathing. They think fresh air is deadly. Like, get the fuck out of here. This is another case, and historically, if anyone 100 years from now were to look back in this time period, they would say, well, damn, they had those people brainwashed thinking the fresh air was dangerous to breathe. You just connecting dots that don't exist, or you're making lines out of random dots that don't exist in your imagination. Like, there's no connection between a sick person and me breathing. Like, where'd you get that from? There's no experiment on record that proves any of this shit. You just assume it does because the priest doctor says it. They're just inferring and assuming. It's a practice again. But anyway, like I said, the leftists, they're on, but they still have good points. Everybody has good points. Like I said, the conservatives, the religionists, yes, I would say there's a transcendent principle, but worship of the creator, that's just, I mean, really, it's just savage because the creator is a savage, is a monster. Let's just say if there was this static creator character being, which I don't really literally think there is, but let's just say it's a savage. He's a monster. We know how we go over it all the time. The food chain is terrible. You got creatures down here eating each other just to survive. Literally, it's so horrific, but you're so used to it that you kind of just, well, that's just the way it is. You gotta really think about it. You think about how horrific that is. You got creatures tortured by deficiency of hunger, and they must resort to killing and eating each other. Swallowing each other. What the fuck is that? That is the sickest shit that any being or whatever or non-being could ever dream up. There's nothing sicker than that. There's no excuse for it. So that pretty much cuts off. You don't need to write a 600-page book about this shit. It's a simple observation. That's a horrific scenario, and whatever dreamed that up is a psychopath. I don't care about love. I don't care about your fuzzy feelings, about flowers, about fucking butterflies. None of it. It doesn't matter if you're in a world where the sentient feeling creatures are devouring each other. End of story. That's a monster. So they're worshiping a monster. But anyway, they do have this Jesus thing. Let's just use this example. And that's sort of a transcendent principle. So there's a truth in that. And even the Christ message is truthful because Christ didn't worship the creator or the creation, technically. So at the same time, the lefties, the atheists, they have stumbled upon the fact that, well, yeah, life is pointless, and that's just not the materialist atheist. There's spiritual atheists that see that. There's even spiritual theists or spiritual deists who believe that this life is pointless because biologically it is. See, and the only thing is, you're trying to salvage it with this, well, maybe my mind is like, maybe my spirit and my mind is like experiencing for a reason, and I'm going through these stages of experience so I can learn how to love, and it's like, well, the more you learn, it's like, well, no, the spirit doesn't need a body mind, because the whole point of religion, again, the origin already is, it didn't need to be formed in a womb and to fall out of a woman's legs and run around looking for food and ass and a job or whatever, some labor to do so they can fucking eat again and make some babies, and they're hungry so they gotta feed them, and now you gotta kill for them, and this starts the conflict. This is and of course Plato talked about this in Phaedo, how, again, it's just what I'm saying. I mean, the body is the source of all evils. So once you understand that, you gotta know that though. But once you understand that it's the source of all evils, the need to nurture the body, it's the cause of war, it's the cause of crime, it's the cause of violence, it's everything. It's not, people will say the economy, because somebody asked me, well, why doesn't the average person kind of get this where they had this existential, dread? It's like, well, they do. They just call it the economy, or you call it the tornado, or the famine, or whatever you can think of. It's a deflection, or they're blaming the outer, but it's really the inner. Meaning it's really the body that's the problem. It's not the outward environment. It's the nature of the body, its deficiencies, its weaknesses that are the source of all evil. So if that's the case, then that means that the feminine is actually evil. Maya, the mother of the Matrix, is actually evil, and she would be a savage. I'm just using, figurative language. I don't take the stuff too literally. But so again, that would be the Gnostic premise, and that this would be sort of like this entire thing would be like, well, just take your body consciousness in the body itself, would be like a parasite, and the spirit would be a battery. Now you can go into the whole trifecta of a soul and a spirit, but bottom line is that yeah, something's being used, and it's not too far fetched to think that because you can't ultimately control this thing with your will. Ultimately, like you can't like let's just say knock on wood, or something terrible happens or whatever. You can't will yourself like there's people with no limbs or whatever. Like they can't will them. They can't will their limbs back, to regenerate with their own will. I mean, so that alone tells you that, well, okay, that's why they mean that this is not self. It's not really you. That's the first thing you got to get over too, which easy to say, but it takes a while to see, because at first you're so used to identifying as an object, in this case being the body, um, and body consciousness also, which is not you also, because you got to understand you didn't will body consciousness into existence, and as far as you know, the first when the baby comes out, and it's already still alive before that. Keep in mind, despite what the lefty psychopaths try to act as if you know a 4 month old embryo is just dead. It's not dead. Um, but out the womb is screaming because so it just shows you it doesn't have control. It lost control. Um, already lost a semblance of peace, and again that's why it's called embryonic breathing, because you're going back to the state of the embryo as a metaphor for the origin. But anyway, yeah, the nihilism. So the nihilism is true. It's a truth. Um, but it's like most human minds are so conditioned by family and society. It's that they just can't handle it. It's like they would consider it like teen angst or something. Well, you gotta find the meaning, and it's like, well, no. I mean, you gotta. Biology itself is the most superfluous. It's garbage. I mean, it's in the piece of Sophia, where Jesus says, "Well, this world is material refuse. Refuse is garbage." He says it's all garbage, and it's right in the piece of Sophia. That's one of the Gnostic scriptures, which is again the real Christianity. So a lot of these Christians don't really want to know the real message and that stuff either. It's too mind blowing. Like it's like I said, it's too shattering to your worldview. So, but this is the true religion. And I forgot why I was saying that, but because again, intellectuals bash religion, and I was also pointing out that both sides has truths to point out. It's just incomplete. Because, like I said, nihilism is true, and the other fact, and I brought this up before with the atheists, is they understand that look, individual consciousness is transient, is temporary. The reason you see this is the big one too, because even people that listen to my channel, this is the one you can't let go of. Like you want this to be the thing. Like regardless, I can hang on to my individual awareness. So even if we'll hear all this about this is worthless, is fuck Earth and all this, you still want to hang on to your individual consciousness, which is Earth. And depending on the school, the angle of the school of thought, hell, individual awareness is the world. Without it, there is no world. Because you could, some people would argue, well, no, there's a world, and if there was no people alive, it would just be a world. Or if there were no minds alive, aware, whatever, there would be no world, meaning one depends on the other. That's a very complex topic, too. And it's not as simple as you think. At first, it seems simple to say, no, surely the world just exists, and creatures or not, the world just exists, meaning there will be grass, dirt, the plane, the sun, the moon, the elements. I guess they would just exist even without bugs. I guess no bugs, no animals, no reptiles, no amphibians, no fish, anything like that. It would say, well, the world it would still exist. It would just be barren. Then others on the other side would say, no, if there were no consciousness, without it, there's no world. So you can figure out, what side of that you want to cling to, or just none of it and leave it all alone. But ultimately, you're still talking about something transient. So, uh, like on that Gurbani, he talks about how, well, the wise one, you should see that the world, actually exists inside of you, instead of you existing in the world. But then that requires you to divorce from body consciousness, and also it requires you to divorce from individuality itself, because yeah, individual awareness is gonna feel like you're in the world and it's surrounding you, and especially as a body consciousness. Once you separate from the I am, the body consciousness, the I am itself, this concept of being a center of awareness, I hate to break it to you, but actually that's the main evil. That's the main issue. All you know of individuality is Earth or something like it, even if you're dreaming, or the astral, which is an extension or part of the Earth layers of awareness. The dream, the astral, it's all a part of it. Again, it's part of the stars, and the stars are the astral. And like I said, the stars are our mind. So yeah, astrology is pertinent. Astrology has a reality to it. I mean, the stars are they're very mysterious, and I'll link a video to someone zooming in on the stars. They're not millions of miles away. They're not in space. There's no fucking space. It's like Mars is not a planet. It's a star in the firmament. It's right there. It's not some rocky world catapulting through a vacuum. I mean, this shit is a cartoon. This space thing is a cartoon. You got to get over that too, because it really helps you see how this whole model really works. Like the ancients, the wise men, all this stuff that the so-called occult groups look up to, but they can't accept. A lot of them can't accept the Earth is not a space science is fraud. Is a fraud. They can't accept it, but it's the only way to understand. Esoterics, astrology, even sacred geometry, because that has a lot to do with the stars too. A lot of the stars take on some shapes where they look like they're constantly in motion in a sense. But I'll link a video to them. But it's very mysterious, and so they have influence. Like I said, we wouldn't be conscious if it wasn't for the stars. That's how deep it is. So that's why they talk about, in a sense, they talk about how the soul falls down to earth through the stars, in a sense, and you get your aspects from the stars. But again, the stars they're not different planets. They're not different. And a planet itself is a fraud. There's no such thing as a planet, unless. Oh, let me backtrack. A planet is a wandering star. That's the definition of a planet. I mean, these people have really fucked up everything. And I hate when people say that. Oh, it doesn't matter, flat or round. Like, first of all, we didn't say not round. It's a plane or it's a sphere. And it's like, well, it does matter. That's why they're lying to you. I mean, it's your outlook, your perspective. Every school of thought, every system of philosophy takes into account the cosmology or the cosmogony. They take it into account. So act like it doesn't matter. You're just trying to appease everybody, or just too lazy to try to figure it out, or you're scared because you don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. But I don't give a fuck. I'm trying to get to the truth. What's the truth of the matter? That space crap is a cartoon. Shit doesn't even make sense. Never made sense. Doesn't make sense to a child. Water doesn't curve. Nobody's walking upside down anywhere. It's a production. It's a very elaborate production, very demonic, a very very sophisticated operation. They've been pulling on the minds of people for like hundreds of years. But anyway, you got to get the flat Earth to it really just makes sense of this world. It's called a world system. So the word cosmos is spelled with a K, Kosmos. It means world system. That's in the it's in the Gnostic scriptures, that Bentley Layton's book, where he goes into the it's like a footnote. But anyway, yeah, it's a world system. So it's a system, like I said. So you can look at it as like they say, like an egg. The firmament would be the top of the egg. The earth, the plain earth, would be the egg yolk in the middle, sitting upright. And then the bottom, I guess, would be hell. whatever the bottom is. I don't know exactly what the bottom is, but yeah, that's how you can look at it. It's a world system, and like I said, I don't know exactly. They say waters surround it. I don't know what kind of waters. I'm not exact on that, but judging by the fact that this space shit is made up, I'm gonna go with. I'm just gonna go ahead and put faith in the sense in their estimate that it's surrounded by waters because they all say it. Like all the ancient wise, I'm not astronomers, but cosmologists, they say it's surrounded by waters. So that's some deep stuff. I don't know what the barrier is in the sky. I don't know about people talk about the dome. I don't know how close the dome is. I don't think that rocket hit the dome. I don't know. I don't think it hit the. I don't know. I don't think it did. I don't know. Could hit the dome. But if we're surrounded by waters, then there must be some type of barrier. So anyway, in a rant, but see, it's a lot of stuff that is to be realized before you because that's a test of your mind too. If you can accept that the whole globe space thing is a fraud, it shows us that you're willing to think for yourself first of all. And again, a lot of these groups, because I was talking about how these people, it's like who do we have? Sadhu Guru. It's like this guy, okay, fine, self help. If you want to figure out some psychological issues, to help you with your success. I mean, that's all fine and well, but don't act as if you're giving people like this yogic truth because like Patanjali's a Yoga Sutras, that stuff is like too much. For again, that's more stuff where it's like, damn. I mean, even me. I mean, when I first started reading this stuff, a lot of this stuff you be like, damn. It's not like I was shocked because I was always sort of kind of raw in the sense. Like people always say, man, you pretty hardcore. But like I was always like not scared to like just face ugly truth. So like when a lot of this stuff when he talks about like they really like downplay the body. I mean he goes hard on this stuff. Like this stuff is crap. Like you need to like abandon everything through yogic practice and just go within and the deep samadhi. That's basically what the Yogi Sutra's saying. But then I hear like Russell Simmons was making a spiel, and he was trying to claim that well, the Christ and the yogis all came to tell us that we need to uplift our communities and protect our families, and I'm like, bro, no, the fuck they didn't. Like that's exactly what they didn't say. And they can't handle it. Like what? Oh my God, you saying the prophets came to destroy the earth? They don't like families. Oh my God, that's negativity. You're so negative. You're so miserable. Oh, like these people that they cannot let go of this fucking garbage. They cannot let go of this deficient and dying garbage. It's so pathetic. These worldlings are really pathetic, and I mean in a mind sense, like their mentality, like they can't let it go. I mean, at best or at worst, however you want to put it, you want to have two in you, and you do have two in you. There's a part of you that wants to cling to this, and that's the like a monkey, just a complete blind monkey, because there's no way you would if you had the chance beforehand to make a choice, if you had to like examine this entire condition, you would not come into a body consciousness. You especially on Earth, you would not do that. Only a fool would do that if you take everything into account. And the deficiency alone would make you a fool for even wanting it. So when people try to make a case for life, they think they're caping for something and they think that's the virtuous thing to do with it. Again, that's evil. Period. It just is. I mean, it's the true evil, not the caricaturized evil. It's just plain evil. That's what it is. Evil is that which causes suffering. And so you're really just asking for deficiency, violence, an ultimate destruction, which just implies futility. Because I would death in of itself is not evil, unless you want to say this is death, this walking corpse condition. This would be the evil. Non-being is not evil. It's like people get all rest in peace, rest in peace. Oh, it's like the concept of losing your life is the dumbest shit ever. Like you don't lose your life. Like if you lose your car keys, you're really fucked up because you have to experience that, and that's just a light one. Let's just say you lose your house, like a hurricane. You lost your house. That's fucked up. But they think, oh my God, lose your house. Can you imagine if you lost your life? It's not your life. You can't lose it because there's no discarnate entity somewhere going, oh my God, I lost my life. This was the greatest loss. And he's gonna like do that for like 1,000 years. Oh, I can't believe I lost my life. It's like how they talk about people who died like 30 years ago. It's like, oh, today he would be 87 times 10, like whatever. It's just like, what? Shut up. Like, they can't let it go. Like no, it came and went. It wouldn't be anything. You know what I'm saying? But there's you can't lose your life. Bottom line, it's no evil in that. It's the most absurd shit ever. Pretty hardcore though. But that's why they say in the Zen, there's a Zen master who says, "Do not follow human sentiment," and that's one of the real reasons why. That's pretty much the ultimate reason why too, because this shit again is material refuse. But anyway, the point was about basically I'm talking about these charlatans, how they can't um, they just won't or can't expose or you won't get because a lot of times this stuff will sound extreme and it's not extreme. It's really the most simple and most sensible way of looking at things, but you're delusional. So that, and that's not even an opinion. You're naturally deluded about your condition. You're deluded about its value, and you're naturally deluded about well, just how repulsive it is too. You're deluded about that also. So it's kind of like a spell. This whole thing is really it's really a demonic spell. It's a childish, even mischievous spell that makes you attached to this thing. It's like Bobby said. It's like this is a nightmare. It literally is a nightmare. Like I said, you can't even they can't even show the body like an exposed body on television. You can't on prime time. Like if a crime committed, somebody got murdered or not even that, just a bad accident. They can't show it. Like if it's so good, if life is so good, having a body is so good, why can't we show it? Like if I cut up a pillow, you can show that. But if you cut up a body, you can't show it because it's disturbing. It's disturbing because it's a fucking nightmare. They literally call. See, people know like this is hell. This is if you go into the this Jain philosophy, which is again a lot of this stuff is related, but they call this a Nara. They call the body hell, not the world. They say the body is hell, literally. So yeah, like I said, so they know, and this is where I'm getting at. The real stuff is all Gnostic. I mean, there is no, oh, the Gnostics thought this, but the Hindus say you should worship Brahman, love life and the animals, and pet the creatures and feed the deers, and the Christians say love the world, have love for your neighbor, and if you're a nice person, you're gonna go to heaven. Just be good. And the Buddhists say if you pray to Buddha in peace and meditate and share and care and love for your family, and if you work hard, and then you'll be able to go rest with Buddha and all this bullshit. None of them say that. Every single one is Gnostic when you really read it. But you really see it again if you go through the Gnostic stuff first, and then you go back into the stuff. You say, "Oh shit, that's why they're talking about meditating. That's where they're doing yoga. That's why they're doing and spinal breathing. That's why they're trying to do this now. Oh, that because the ultimate goal was to kind of reunite this inner being with the origin and just fuck the world process because the world process really ain't got shit to do with you, but the whole issue is who the hell are you, and that's the question because everyone identifies with the mind, and that's where I go back to you got to let it go. It's the last thing to let go. Like I listen to other people, and other people I kind of respect them on a certain level, but anybody telling you that you need to learn this and that because when you die your mind's gonna do that, so you got it's a lie. The mind is not even. I mean, in the context of the origin, it's nothing. What the fuck you gonna do with a mind? It's ignorant. Just to have a mind is to be ignorant. It's something you don't know. It's limited. You got to figure everything out. It creates fear, but it also creates love too, which, again, is a part of the spell. It's a part of the. See, it's easy to say, you might get deep and say, well, lust is part of the seven deadly sins, and was it greed, lust, envy, hate, sloth, Okay, what about love? I bet you nobody's gonna tell you that love is really the one. Now, of course, it doesn't appear evil. Of course, it feels good. You should love every. No, no, they say we should love. What are you talking about? No. The love that people use every day, which is basically attached. It attaches you to something, and it makes you feel good through your attachments. That's an evil because you're attached to. Again, look what you're attached to. You're attached to the same bodies that you can't even show on primetime television. You can't even show this beautiful life. You can't even you have to blur it out. Imagine you can't even show it. Like there was a this bad accident, bad car accident, and they don't even show anything. They just show the car and they just cut the scene. Like oh yeah, because you don't want to see that. You don't want to see what life really looks like all the time. And if you do, like when you go to when it happens in wars, half the men go crazy through seeing that all the time, killing people and looking at all these bodies and destroyed, and the other half go fucking demonic. They just turn into hardened demonic men. So like it's a lot of footage from Ukraine and Russia. If some people could find this stuff. A lot of the stuff, and it both sides. You pick a side. They're doing fucked up shit, like just tying men blindfold and shooting them in the kneecaps. Dude, men are fucking crazy. But it's not just men though. It's women. Because if men are crazy and they come out of woman, then what's a woman? That's what you gotta ask yourself. And this is where you would get this misogyny. And I spoke on this, like I said, you know my channel. I'm not on misogyny. That's one half of it because you're missing the point. Because misandry is just as true, or just misanthropy itself. It's humankind, period. But since we come out of the female, a lot of times they would just say, well, they just look at the woman in a certain light because she's the biggest fraud. Like the whole concept of a mother, and it's the biggest lie ever. To be mothered is to be broken into this evil way of things. Having a body and again with all his needs, they kind of acclimate you to being hungry all the time and thinking that that's acceptable. The need to constantly fucking refill this worthless thing. Like you work hard, you get your little tokens for exchange, you cook your meals or you go eat out or whatever, and hours later you're hungry again. It's like what the fuck? What a joke. What a ripoff. It's worthless. But the mothering, the nurturing, it gives you this fake positive thing, but it's not really positive. It's just the mitigation of a deficiency. It's the constant mitigation, constant mitigation. It's not a positive virtue. It's not anything to be proud of. And the worldlings take pride in it. They take pride in the misery of it all. This is why they're fools. Like they will always be fools. Like there's no debating that the worldlings or the worldling mentality is foolishness. That's not up for debate. So that's why the woman you got to get over the motherly thing. That's I know it's tough, but that's a fraud, biggest fraud too. And so the misogynistic stuff is a way of dispelling that because you if anything that's one of the last vestiges of hanging on to this well at least you have that it's like well that's miserable too and it's actually an evil. It's promote more evil because if we go back again, so like I said about Plato and the Phaedo and the cause of wars and violence and crime, it's really the body. St. Augustine said this stuff too. It's really the body is the cause of everything. And if we know that, then we know that well, the womb made the body. And as I said in my previous video, there's the Buddhist text on the descent of the embryonic or the descent of the embryo. And they say that it's a they said basically what they say is what is formed inside of the womb is a unsatisfactory suffering mess, because that's what it is. So once you understand that, you understand well that's the source of evils too. So that's nothing to venerate either. So this whole mother thing gotta go also. So you'll be left with nothing, and that's the joy of it. Because see, to a materialist atheist, nothing is despair. To them, they think like there's this meme they have where it's the nihilist versus the I don't like sort of the I don't want to say Christian, but the universalist, just these space people, the universe. But the nihilist is saying, well, it's all pointless. It's all, but they, how they'll kind of. And I'm not saying a lot of these people don't have psychological issues because a lot of them do, because a lot of them don't have, they're not anchored in any wisdom. so they kind of lose their footing because they're right. They realize that there's no point to the world process. It's just a superfluous transient evil. So it's garbage. I mean, fucking a gust of wind just blow the shit and blow your body somewhere, just shut the thing off. It's like, okay, what the hell? You're like, oh, but the value. It's like, no. So yeah, the world's values are perverted in a sense. That's the true perversion. Is this valuing of the world? That comes from that's a perverted value system basically. But anyway, the meme says, "Oh, it's despair, this and that." Then here comes the universe worshiper to tell him, "Oh, you were out of 1 million sperm. You were the luckiest to be born, and you are special and unique." All this pimp game that you hear from this Maya monster. That's pimp game. That's all it is. Like something tied to you is telling you that there's something's not right here, and here comes the gaslighting from Maya the monster. To try to lie. And so, yeah, it's not about. And so you get, just kill yourself. It's like, well, that's a knee jerk reaction to stuff you don't want to hear. And it's also a denial of death because, you don't have to kill yourself because you're already on death row. So that's not the point. The real implication of this would flow into the stuff I made videos on also, which is antinatalism. That's the mature implication. So you just had an animal knee jerk reaction, psychological, oh, kill yourself. Oh, it's like, well, whatever. I mean, okay. Okay, maybe so, maybe not, maybe one day, maybe not. But whatever the case may be, we're all on death row. And the real killer is creation or birth. Same thing. Birth is death, creation is destruction. That's not trying to sound deep, that's just what it is. Destruction has to be created. And if it's inevitable, then the creation created the destruction. The death is just an occasion for how you're gonna die. Whether you want your liver to fucking disintegrate or your organs disintegrate, if that's what you call the right way to die, then okay. Or whether you cause the disintegration of the organ or whatever the case may be. I don't know, not you cause it, but let's say you expedite the disintegration of the organism. Whatever the case may be, it's disintegrating. So it's kind of a moot point. The real mature insight will be, well, should we be promoting this fucking place anyway? Is it worthy of promotion? Of course, the answer is no, but the biology says yes. And so that's a predicament, and also that's why you get a bunch of charlatans. Because you can't tell a crowd this type of stuff. It's too much. So you gotta make the compromise, or at least they do, and that's why you get this bullshit messaging from most of these popular so-called spiritual, these spiritual gurus. Like I said, there's some value in some of the stuff they say, but you gotta if you can't get past that stuff, man, you're not really ready for the truthful stuff. And again, I mean, it's for any for people who it kind of gets the mind off of this, and you want to go deep into if you enjoy, if you're really interested in any kind of practice, meditation, or just contemplation shit. And you just like to think about stuff deeper, fine. Or just get over the fear of death at a deep, deep level. Your life will go so much easier. Or your mock existence here, your journey through this valley of death. It'll go so much easier if you get over this ultimate fear. Not just the fear, just this hate of it, this psychological, intellectual hate of this impending ending of this thing. Because it's like they said in what the fuck is that? That's just Chang Tzu, I believe. But he has Confucius talking, and he's talking about how there's this basically this school of thought where they see the body consciousness as an attached cyst, an appended tumor, and death as the bursting of a boil, the draining of an abscess. Peace.